did. Okay. So you did laundry, cleaned out the storage room, threw away some stuff not needed. That's really good. Good job. You did good. Props to you. It's always nice when we get stuff done, though. It feels good. But thank you guys so much for coming in today. Today we're going to be talking about building habits that keep you moving forward, right? And it's funny because we're talking about chores that we got to do. But today specifically, we're going to be talking about how to stay consistent when our motivation starts to fade away. So motivation, as you know, it comes and goes. But consistency is what actually builds that change, right? The long change. So tonight we're going to be diving into how to stay consistent even when you don't necessarily feel like it. So that's especially prominent on the weekends because, you know, during the week we work hard. So sometimes we deserve a little break. So there's nothing wrong with taking a break. It's just finding that balance between that motivation when it leaves, right? So today's topic, I'm going to break into 3 different parts. Part 1, we're going to talk about the myth of motivation. Part 2, we're going to talk about the power of small habits and building those small habits. And then part 3, we're going to be talking about creating your consistency. Elizabeth said, I have an issue with being lazy. Yeah, same. Honestly, I feel so guilty, like if I take too much of a break. But honestly, sometimes that like lazy period or that break is needed for you to like keep going hard, right? So, for example, for me, sometimes I do too much and then I start feeling overwhelmed or I start feeling like I'm gonna burn out, right? You start feeling that burnout feeling that you get. And it's not until I tell myself, all right, you need to stop and you need to take a break and you need to reset. Even though I might feel guilty for taking a break, it's so necessary. Hi Hamzla, hi Kartik, welcome. Today we're going to be talking about staying consistent when motivation starts to fade. Okay, so again, I'm going to be breaking it up into 3 parts. Part 1 is the myth of motivation. Part 2 is the power of building small habits. And part 3 is creating your consistency. Hi Noblim. Gracias. Okay, so part 1, we're going to be talking about the myth of motivation. So again, let's be honest, we all love the feeling of motivation. We all love when we're feeling motivated and we're ready. Kartik, I'm sorry. So part 1 is going to be the myth of motivation. Part 2 is the power of building small habits. And part 3, we're going to talk about creating your consistency. Okay, so again, part 1, the myth of motivation. So basically, I want to talk about that spark that gets us started, right? Motivation tends to be something that comes really quickly, but can also fade away. So we're going to talk about the spark that gets us started, which is motivation. The rush of energy that we get when we're inspired or ready for change, right? But then again, motivation is an emotional energy. Hi Jesse, welcome to the chat. It's an emotional energy, and just like emotions by nature, they tend to fluctuate. Gracias, hahaha. I'm from Brazil. Obrigada. I'm from Puerto Rico, so I don't know Portuguese, but some of the words are very similar. Okay, so again, we're going to be talking about the myth of motivation. So motivation is an emotional energy. So sometimes by nature, they tend to fluctuate, right? So sometimes our motivation is at its peak. So we're super motivated, super ready to get the work done. But then other times it tends to be very low. So our motivation, we don't necessarily want to work too hard, right? Or we start feeling like, quote unquote, lazy. Hey, Kiara. Thank you for coming, Chichi. Hey, Gabi. So guys, I'm live on both YouTube and TikTok. So if you see me looking around and changing screens, that's why. Okay. Hey, mama. So we're starting out, you guys didn't miss much. We're starting out with part 1, which is the myth of motivation. And I was just sharing how motivation, just like our emotions, can fluctuate. So motivation at times is like we're super motivated and it's at our peak. And then at other times, our motivation is really low, right? And it's really hard for us to be focused and be motivated in our goals. Hi, Ignatius. Thank you for coming in. So again, motivation helps you to start, right? It's a really good tool to use to get started in whatever goal that you have in mind or in whatever thing that you're using it for, right? But it's unreliable for staying consistent. So Kartik, don't worry, we'll get to part 2 shortly, okay? I promise it won't take too long. So again, motivation helps you start, but it's unreliable when you want to stay consistent. That's why so many of us tend to get stuck in that cycle of starting strong, being really motivated and starting that project or starting to work towards that goal. And then we start losing momentum and we either give up, walk away, or just slow down, right? So it's not that you necessarily lack discipline or that you lack drive. It's that you're depending on something that was never meant to last forever. So that's why I feel it's very important not to depend on motivation for you to keep working hard and for you to keep going towards your goals. So this shift isn't about finding more motivation. It's about building systems that support you even on the days that you don't feel like it, right? So for example, there are many things that we do every single day that don't require us to have motivation. So for example, you wake up in the morning and you brush your teeth, right? So you don't wait to feel motivated to brush your teeth. You do it because you know you need to for your health of your mouth, or you just do it because it's part of your habit, right? It's part of your daily rhythm that you've created. And that's what we're aiming for with our goals. So we can start thinking of our goals as something else that we add to our rhythm in our day, right? So go ahead and drop a comment if you've ever felt like you're constantly starting over because your motivation's running out. So drop a comment if you've ever felt like you're constantly starting over because your motivation runs out. Kiara on TikTok said, yep, 100. Same. It's so easy. Once that motivation runs out, sometimes we like talk our way out of the goal that we had in mind. Welcome, Flaco. Kartik on YouTube said, yes, I'm not doing good. I'm not doing good. Ignatius asked me to repeat. So basically I just said, drop a comment if you've ever felt like you're constantly starting over because your motivation runs out. So for example, you really wanted to start a class, but your motivation to apply for that class ran out, so you didn't do it. Or you really wanted to save money, but the motivation went away, so now you're like, nah, I'm good. I love that. Okay, Sir Jacob just dropped some knowledge for us. He said, I don't create goals that aren't realistic, so I don't usually run out of motivation. But when I do, I pray to God. I love that. Okay, Sir Jacob. Yes, let's clap for Sir Jacob. That's beautiful. I love that. Let's see, TikTok, whenever I try to start eating healthy and work out. Yeah. It'd be like that sometimes. Yup. It'd be like that, mama. I feel you. Okay. So Kartik, we're going to part 2. The power of small habits, right? So if motivation gets us started, what actually keeps us going? What actually keeps us going is habits, right? So if motivation gets us started, we can start building habits to continue to push us towards our goal when that motivation starts to phase. Ignatius said, what do you mean by motivation? So for me specifically, I can give you a personal example. So I wanted to start my own business in coaching and in spreading positivity, affirmations, all that good stuff, right? So that is my goal. I wanted to start that business. Now, what motivated me was that I wanted to be able to do something outside of my 9-to-5 job, something that eventually can give me funds to support my family outside of having to go to work every single day, right? So that was what motivated me at first, and being able to, be there for my family. So that was my big motivation. But sometimes when you're putting in so much work and it takes time, that motivation starts to fade and you start forgetting the reason why you started the goal in the first place. So that's why I'm sharing today why it's so important to build those habits. So when you get to those days where you're not feeling motivated, or you're super tired, or you just don't have the energy, right? You have those habits that kind of push you through those days and help you through those days. Does that make sense, Ignatius? Let me know. Okay, so habits can become your anchor when that motivation starts to phase. Those tiny actions, sometimes they might seem like insignificant in the moment, but over time it starts to compound, just like drops filling a bucket, right? It's very small drops, one at a time, but over time now you have a bucket full of water, right? So it's the same way with our goals. We start building these small habits, we start making these small choices, and over time it will get us closer to our goals. So a lot of times you don't need like massive changes. Hi Dora, thank you for coming in. You don't need massive changes, you just need like small consistent ones to start building that momentum. Thank you, Mama. Okay, so I want to give you an example of a possible habit that you could build. So for example, if my goal is to be able to wind down at night and have you time, like that quiet me time right before bed, I could do 5 minutes of journaling before bed every day. I can drink 1 glass of water first thing in the morning to wake myself up, right? Writing down one small win each day. So it just depends on your goal, right? So for me, I have a hard time winding down and going to bed, right? So one habit that I've created is that I turn on my sleep music like maybe 15 to 30 minutes before I'm actually going to bed, and I'll play a little game. It's like a silly little game. It doesn't require any thought. It doesn't require strain, but it's a good way for me to distract myself from the day-to-day tasks, all the things that can cause anxiety or stress, right? And I put my alarm, I play my game, and I have my music playing. And that combination altogether helps me wind down and it helps me go to sleep. And that's a very simple thing that you could do, right? Every single day. So consistency isn't necessarily about the intensity, it's about being intentional, right? So it's figuring out what is my end goal. Hey, Chi-Chi. Oh, I love that. Yeah, you should just find like a silly little game. It could be a word search. It could be like, I don't know if I'm allowed to say like brands, but there's plenty of like matching games where you match like flowers to flowers and this to this. It's like silly stuff that doesn't require too much thought. Oh, thank you. It's all good. It probably looks better on YouTube right now because it's not on the weird screen. But yeah, so I'm curious, what's one small habit that's been easy for you to keep lately? So what is one small habit that's been easy for you to keep lately? So for me, I've shared that. It's like my little sleep music and game. That's what I've been doing. And it's really been helping me. And honestly, I started my day now because I always, as I get ready for work in the morning, I started saying positive affirmations to myself just to start off my day in a positive note. Hi, Roxana. Welcome. So what's one small habit that's been easy for you to keep lately? Let's see. Mama said I stopped eating right before going to bed because I noticed that will make me stay up. Yeah, that's so true. I had trouble with that too. I didn't make the connection until I realized, like, oh, I feel like kind of like uncomfortable, and that's why I couldn't go to bed. That's so true. And plus, honestly, it's healthier for you not to do it, so it's only going to help you sleep and be more healthy. So hello, it's always a win-win. Okay, so for part 3, now that we understand how motivation can fade and what small habits can sustain us, we can make it practical. Oh, Abuela said doing my mental exercises. Oh, I love that. And one thing that I do want to say is that motivation is going to fade, right? We know this. It's going to happen, but it's up to us to really start to think, what is my goal, right? Number 1, what is my goal? And then number 2, what habits can I start doing today that will help me get closer to that goal? Because goals are not going to be met overnight. The vision that you have is not going to be met overnight, and that's okay, right? It's taking that pressure off yourself, knowing that, okay, maybe I won't reach this goal tomorrow, but if I slowly tackle it, I'm gonna get there, right? So it's not putting too much pressure on yourself. Okay, so for part 3, we want to create a consistency plan, right? We want to be consistent, and we want to reach those goals, and we want to be strong for the times that motivation might fade, right? So I'm gonna have 3 points here. Point 1 is that we pick one small habit. Point 2 is that we anchor it to something we already do. And then point 3 is tracking our daily wins, right? So for point 1, hey Joseph, thank you for coming. For point 1, you pick a small habit that supports your bigger goal. So for example, for Mama, stopping eating right before going to bed because you notice it makes you stay up. So what can you do to support that goal, right? To support that goal of stopping eating right before bed, you can drink water, right? Instead, if you feel hungry, you can drink water. Or for Abuela, saying that she does her mental exercises, she wants to be consistent with doing her mental exercises. So what's a small habit that supports that bigger goal? A small habit that you can do is to pick 5 minutes before bed and do your mental exercises, right? Something that's already tied to like a thing that you do on the daily basis anyways. Ignatius, you said no personal questions, right? If you have a question, feel free. Yeah, no problem at all. Or if something's confusing and you need clarification, it's not a problem to ask as well. Okay, sorry. So an example that I can show you is if your goal is to feel more grounded, then you can commit to 1 minute of deep breathing after waking up every morning. Ignatius on YouTube said, every day when I woke up, I start with a new motivation. I love that. That's a really good idea. Do you have an example of something that really motivates you in the morning? because you never know, maybe someone else that's here and that's listening could really use that. So feel free to share, and I'll totally share it with people on TikTok as well. So again, if your goal is to feel more grounded, you can commit to 1 minute of deep breathing after waking up. And then my second point is I want you to anchor it to something that you already do. So for example, if I brush my teeth every morning, then I can say an affirmation to myself right after, which is actually what I already do. So every morning before work, it's very difficult for me sometimes. I do have ADHD. So sometimes I want to do something, but then I forget that I want to do it because I'm distracted by other things. So I decided that now every time I brush my teeth, I'm going to say a positive affirmation right after. And this could be out loud. This could be to yourself in your head. It doesn't matter. But that was a way that I could always know for sure I have to do it at this time right after this activity. It was very easy for me not to forget it. Because it links the new habit to an existing routine. So it makes it stick, right? Let's see, Ignatius said, oh, you said TikTok was banned in your country? Aw, it's all good. They're trying to do it here too. But that's why I decided to start doing YouTube as well. Because I know there's a lot of people on YouTube. So I was like, it's a good way to reach more people. Okay, but yeah, so if you have a habit that you want to make a part of your daily routine, the best way to do it is to add it to something that you've already done. So for example, when you wake up and you're brushing your teeth, do it right after. Or if right before bed you brush your teeth, do it right after, right? So it's like connecting it to something that you already do on a daily basis. If you're driving to work and you listen to the radio station, maybe instead of listening to the radio, you can do your mental exercises, or you can listen to positive affirmations as you drive to work. So there's so many different ways that we can include these small habits in our day-to-day basis. And then the last point is I want you to track your wins daily, right? So this is how you build evidence of consistency. And evidence builds belief. So the more that you build evidence to yourself, like you're proving to yourself, I can do this. I just did it. I did it 5 days out of the 7 days this week. Like that's a win, right? So if you start tracking your wins and you start like patting yourself on the back for doing your thing, right? You start building evidence to that supports the fact that you got it, right? So you start building belief in yourself, and you start trusting yourself, and you start becoming more consistent. So don't wait for a perfect system. Don't wait for the perfect time. Just start with one small consistent action this week. And that's how you're going to start building that momentum, one choice at a time. So again, no big pressure. Don't put too much pressure on yourself, because then that takes away from that motivation anyways, right? So again, remember that motivation sparks the journey. So it's what starts it, right? It's that big spark of energy, that big spark of emotion. But consistency is what builds the actual transformation, right? Motivation is what gets us started. It's what gets us moving. But then that consistency and those habits, it's what will actually get you to the end goal, to the transformation that you're looking for, right? So again, you don't need to do everything at once. You just need to keep showing up, even if it's in small steps, small ways, for the version of you that you want to become. Elizabeth on TikTok said, I have a whiteboard. I wrote down, great job, if I show up for myself. Oh, I love that. Oh my God, that's such a good idea. I have a whiteboard at work. I might start writing some positive words on there. And Abuela said, being consistent is key. Exactly. And then imagine if you have these small habits that you want to start using, right? And you start attaching it to parts of your life that you already do every day. So let's say you wake up, you take a shower, you brush your teeth, and you make breakfast. So you can pick any of those 4 times of your day to add a small little task. That could be a positive affirmation that you tell yourself. That could be a 5-minute mental exercise that you do. That could be a 5-minute or 1 minute, right? That you take out of your day to remind yourself of how beautiful you are, how far you've come, and how much you love your body, right? So it just depends on what your goal is and what you want your end goal to be, where you want to end up, right? So every week I like to give homework. And if you don't like the word homework, then I like to give a mini challenge to everyone. So I want this week for you to choose one small daily habit, and I want you to commit to it for 7 days straight. And then I want you to track how it feels at the end of the week. So again, this is small, so don't pick no crazy habit. Let's like we had someone say earlier that they like to pick small achievable goals, so then they can get it done and their motivation stays fresh, right? So I want you to choose one small daily habit, and I want you to commit to it for 7 days straight, and then track how it feels at the end of the week. So the reason why this is so important is because if you choose one small daily habit and you commit to it for 7 days straight, by the end of the week, that habit is going to start feeling like it's part of your natural routine, part of your normal routine. And then I want you to track, I want you to see, how does it feel at the end of the week? Does this feel good? Does this feel heavy? Does this feel easy, right? Because also I don't want your small daily habit that you're adding to feel heavy or like a burden, right? We don't want that either. So we want to find a small daily habit that you can incorporate that is going to feel good for you, right? But the only way to know that is by committing to it and then assessing at the end of those 7 days. How do I feel about this? Does this feel good? Does this feel too much? Can I do more, right? Because it could go either way. You could feel like it was too easy, or you could feel like it was too heavy for you. So I want you to commit yourself for 7 days straight to build one small habit, and do it 7 days straight, and then see how it feels at the end of the week. So again, feel free to DM me, feel free to send me a message on how that went. I would love to hear from you guys. But before we leave, I definitely want to share that I have started the process of launching my 2-part reset workshop. So that's going to be happening later on this month. Part 1 is going to be October 23rd, and it's going to be on Zoom. So if you're interested on signing up for my workshop, you can do that through the link in my bio. And it'll be through Zoom. And it'll be recorded. So if you can't make it, you'll have access to a recording. And then part 2 is going to be October 30th. They're both going to be at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. And basically in this workshop, it's going to include 2 live workshop sessions on Zoom, some reflection exercises, guided visualization, and it's going to be a safe and supportive space where you can share and be open and vulnerable, and no judgment. And then there's going to be some bonuses included. So we're going to have a reflection workbook that is printable. That's going to be included. And then it's going to include also the lifetime replay access, and then a lifetime access to the guided visualization as well. So I would love for you guys to be there with me. Again, link is in the bio. You can read more details about it and see exactly what it's about. But I would love to help you on a deeper sense, more one-to-one versus here where I can't really see you fully and actually hear your voice and talk to you. So yeah, sign up on the link in my bio. It's actually 50% off until the 16th. So I'll be excited to see you guys and invite you guys to join. But either way, I'll be back next week with another live to talk more. So thank you guys so much for being here today. I truly appreciate your time, especially on the weekend. So I hope y'all have a beautiful rest of your weekend. It's almost done. And have a really good week this week. Y'all take care and have a good night. Thank you for coming.